ನಮಸ್ತೆ ವೀಕ್ಷಕರೇ, ನಾನು ಮೀನಾ ಯಮನೂರ್, ಬುಕ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಕೋಚ್ ಫಾರ್ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್. ಪಠಣ ಪರಂಪರೆ 5ನೇ ಸಂಚಿಕೆಗೆ ತಮಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಆದರದ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಐ ಆಮ್ ಸೋ ಗ್ಲಾಡ್ that Netra is with us. We had a very good connect. She was my trainer in Purnapramati when we underwent Montessori elementary training. So this is a small information, though, the way she was teaching and the way she was, making us do things was simply amazing. And her connect with children is also superb. To share with you, she has 21 years of experience. ಅವರು ಬರೀ ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಟೀಚಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ಗೆ. And she is a coordinator, academic coordinator in Harvest International School. And she has run the school herself. Montessori school ಅನ್ನ ಅವರೇ ನಡೆಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಕೂಡ. 7-8 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಅವರೇ ನಡೆಸಿ ಅದರ ಎಲ್ಲ ತರದ ಅನುಭವ ಕೂಡ ಅವ್ರಿಗಿದೆ. So I welcome Netra for this program.
ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಮೀನಾ ಅವರೇ, ತುಂಬಾ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ. I'm very glad that we are meeting on this platform and making this effort to spread awareness about reading and writing skills in children. ಇದು ತುಂಬಾ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ವಿಷಯ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತು. ಆದ್ರೇನು ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್ ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಡ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ತುಂಬಾನೇ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನ. So I'm very, very happy to be part of this. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Kendre, what I felt was, before jumping into reading and writing, you have a wide experience. So you have not taught only children. ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗಷ್ಟೇ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ಗೂ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಸೊ ಆ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ, ಲೈಕ್, ಯು ವುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸೀನ್ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ ವೆರಿ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ಲಿ. So what are all the abilities or the skills? It can be the skill. And what kind of abilities children in general have? Maybe individual difference ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದೊಂದು ಮಗುಗೆ ಒಂದು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. But what are their strengths? First, I feel that we need to identify their strengths. So with that intention, I would request you to share their strengths.
Right. Yeah. So the first and foremost thing is children will be same across. So now, unless we put some thoughts into their mind saying this is difficult, this is easy, they are actually not aware of it. So for them, the idea comes from adults. Idu kashta, idu sulabha annodu nammindane avrige barodu. So hagagi, we cannot say that the child has this ability and the child is not having this ability anta differentiate madakkagadilla. But gradually what happens, they also start absorbing adult impressions into their minds. So ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅವ್ರು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ತುಂಬಾ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನಾವ್ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದೀವಿ ನಾವು ಮಾತ್ರ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಅವ್ರು ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವಿಂಗ್ us even more closer to understand what we are thinking about that. So based on the impressions that they receive from us, they start segregating their abilities. They say, yeah, it is difficult for me, ಇದು ನಂಗೆ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ನಂಗೆ ಸುಲಭ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅವರು they also start sorting out their impressions. But otherwise they will not have anything as such unless, as you mentioned, ಒಂದು ಸಿವಿಯರ್ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ತಪ್ಪ ಅದು ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಏನಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. So everybody has their unique ability in them to showcase their talents and their ideas. So there is no such thing as this child has a special ability, this child has no ability. That kind of a impression I have never seen. It's only in our hands what kind of reinforcement we give it to them. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಯಾವ ತರವಾದ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಇಂಪ್ರೆಷನ್ಸ್ ನಾವು ಕೊಡ್ತೀವೋ ಅದ್ರ ಪ್ರಕಾರ they start getting things from us ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. Because that's what I've seen. As long as we are supportive, as long as we are conveying the right message, they're all same. They don't differ in any form. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Yakendre, the mind, ultimately what we feed into the mind is more important. ಇದು ಕಷ್ಟ, ಇದು because the experiential learning ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. They experience it. They see the fire, they touch and once or twice they experience. If it is a candle, they touch and they experience, and that remains in them. But
Yes.
as you said, what we feed into their mind matters a lot. So over a period of time, we would have given that impressions, so which will impact them in various activities, as you rightly said. Ekandre, when you see them do a particular task, they start categorizing and saying that this is difficult, this is easy for me, I don't want to do this, I can't do this, kind.
Right. Yeah.
So wonderfully said. Again, adding to this, iga reading and writing is a skill which need to be acquired. That is, you
Correct.
have to learn it. It is a learning process. Of course, even speaking ugly, listening ugly, it is naturally it happens because you are talking, I also talk. But reading and writing is not of that kind where they need to put in effort. Do you say that reading and writing can be, learnt in an easy way? Because children, we start branding them, saying that nan magang odak baralla, nan magalak bariyak baralla, or these kind of things. So you would have seen, because you would have had so much of interaction with parents, especially, and you would have also seen children working and doing it. What is that you have got? What essence do you would you like to share with the audience? In ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
Okay, so in terms of reading and writing, ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಆಂಗ್ಲ ಭಾಷೆನ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮವಾಗಿ we are using in today's world.
ಹೌದು.
It's become, it's kind of alternative mother tongue ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು.
ಹೌದು.
ಹಂಗಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ. ನಮ್ಗೆ we are not used to our mother tongue. ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆಯನ್ನ ನಾವು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸೋದು ತುಂಬಾ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ನಾವು ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಚಿಂತೆ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡೋದು ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಆಫ್ ಲೇಟ್, ಲೈಕ್ ಐ ಫೀಲ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್. So
ಈಗ
all of us
ಇಂಟರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಹಾಗೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ನಾನು ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ನಿಮ್ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದಾಗ ಐ ಫೀಲ್ ಸಮ್ವೇರ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳೋದು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಸೋ ಮಚ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ದ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ತರ. ಈ ನಡುವೆ ಆ ಕನ್ನಡದ ಬಳಕೆ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಆ ಒಂದು ಇಂಪ್ರೆಷನ್ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸನೇ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೋದ್ರೆ ದ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಡೈಸ್ ಅಂತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಆತರ. ಯಾ,
ಹೌದು.
ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ.
So I've seen children finding their own mother tongue very difficult. Like ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಆದ್ರೂನು parents are choosing Sanskrit and Hindi, any French. Okay, at least Sanskrita, Hindi, at least okay, nam Indian languages anta we can forgive. But they are choosing some other,
German, Spanish,
foreign language as their second
English
language.
also.
Yeah, English has become first language. There is no, choice there. So this has become one trend. Okay, it's difficult. It's not possible for my child to learn. So let me give another option. So they're only looking at very, superficial fact of the language. So when you talk about reading and writing skill, ನನ್ಗೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ನಾವು, I think all of us know about it. ನಾವೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡೋದಿದ್ರೇನು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ನಮ್ ಟೀಚರ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ. ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಐ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಥಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್, ಹೌದಲ್ವಾ, ನಾವು ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ when it comes to reading and writing, why is it taking so much time? Why do we feel at times it's not happening the way it is happening? It's because it is not our mother tongue in first place. When we start, helping children to understand the language, it is unknown language for them, and we start, teaching them instead of making them learn. Because I think you are using learning as the word all the time in this thing. So they feel that, they're not learning something, you're teaching them something all the time. So it's not naturally being learned by the children. It's been taught to them. So that's one other reason why they're finding it difficult to, absorb reading and writing so easily. So like when I was studying, like ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು, ಓದಿದ್ದು ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ 7th ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ವರೆಗೂ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ. ಸೊ ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಸುಲಭ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಓದೋದಿಕ್ಕಾಗ್ಲಿ ಬರೆಯೋದಿಕ್ಕಾಗ್ಲಿ. ಲೈಕ್ ಐ ವುಡ್ ರೀಡ್ magazines at that point of time. Like we used to get Taranga regularly. Balavana was my favorite column in Taranga. So like Chandamama books used to come. So we used to wait for those books to read because that was in Kannada. That was not in any other language. Probably if they had given me some other book, in some other language, I wouldn't have enjoyed it so much. But since it was in my mother tongue and I studied in my mother tongue, it was very easy. And I never learned any question and answer sitting. Like no by heart ಮಾಡಿ
Yeah.
ಯಾವುದನ್ನು ಬರೆಯಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. Because it was in my mother tongue, I could easily read, understand, and write it in the exam. So, but today, what happens? We are in that reproducing world. Like, no, what you read it multiple times because you don't understand. And then you try to reproduce it. That is what is happening with reading and writing. And parents, again, when it comes to parents, each of them have their own needs. Maybe sometimes they think what we didn't get, we should give it to children. So our language was not so great. Let our children learn better language. So their focus is on English. So when they come to interactions, they ask how much of the language is spoken in the classroom. ಎಷ್ಟು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ನೀವು, ಎಷ್ಟು ತನಕ ನೀವು ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಇಂಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ದೇ ಆರ್ ವೆರಿ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್. Maybe they are right in the way because that's the medium of language we are all using in the
Today,
current days.
yeah.
So we can't help it. So their main focus is on that language. When it comes to each state has its own language. That's another barrier all parents are facing. So they come to Karnataka, they should learn Kannada. They go to Tamil Nadu, they learn Tamil. So it differs from state to state, whereas children are also suffering with it, right? So there is no fixed language as such, even for children, except for Hindi, for that matter, which is across state. Somewhere they connect with the language little better than the state language. So I'm not aware how to sort this out, but yes, children do find it very difficult, and most of the things are translated into English for them to understand. So that's become it's default learning process for them, translating everything into English. Another barrier that they're all facing. But then providing a proper channel and method to learn any language, and if they remain with that pattern of learning for a couple of years, I don't think they'll face so much problem. The problem is they're moving also from place to place. There is no fixed pattern for children as it. It's fine even if they've come to Karnataka and they started learning Kannada in a right manner, if they start doing it and for a fixed number of years, I don't think they'll find it difficult. But the thing is, we are always in the verge of making things easy for children and for parents. Okay, so that is another problem we are facing. Okay, we will see how we can make it easy for them instead of giving enough time for them to understand the language. We always say spoken language is very, very important for reading or writing. Unless your flow for speaking is there, you will not be able to comprehend what is written. That is not possible. ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಓದ್ಬೇಕು, ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಆ ಫ್ಲೋ ಇರಬೇಕು, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅದರ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್, ಆ ವೊಕ್ಯಾಬ್ಲರಿ ಬೇಕು. ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಲೆಟರ್ಸ್. First we start with words. We are in a hurry to teach them Kagumita. We are in a hurry to teach them matras. So what happens? They lose out the important essence of language. So these are some of the difficulties that we are looking at when we are actually facing parents. But yes, there are several strategies that we need to follow to help children gain that knowledge to learn. Yeah.
Wonderfully shared. I mean, it's a real insight I felt. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀವಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಸೆಡ್ because the language is so important and the spoken language is very important. And you spoke about methods irbeku, pattern irbeku, duration also you mentioned. So can you just give some insights about the pattern in which it should be done and the duration also? Approximately, may not be, because on and average ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ಒಂದೊಂದು ಮಗುಗೂ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಎಬಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ಆಲ್ ದಟ್. ಯಾ.
Right. So when you take pattern, it is better we always start with spoken language. ಸೊ ಆಡು ಭಾಷೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ನಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ. ಆ ಸ್ಪೋಕನ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ everything becomes very easy for us to understand. So the vocabulary is very, very important. So you always begin with vocabulary and do as much as possible with them. Okay. So age group is another criteria that we always look when we talk about language. when I go back to my studies and what we have seen in Dr. Montessori's words is like she says between 3 and 6 child has the capacity to absorb as many as 6 to 7 languages with ease, not in terms of reading and writing, but in terms of speaking. If the language is alive in the environment, if somebody is constantly speaking, then the child learns with ease, and that is an experience for us. We have seen as well, like if in the home environment, the akka who comes to help us at home is speaking Tamil, the child picks up Tamil. And if the vegetable vendor who comes and speaks in Kannada, if the child is interacting with him, then she will pick up Kannada. So if the child is speaking to somebody else in some other language like Hindi or something, then the child will pick up Hindi. So it's like that. So that is something that is very, unique for that age group. Whereas when it comes to when you're starting a language at the age of 6, so that is going to be a slightly a difficult part because your focus is both on, looking at the literary part of the language, okay, where you're looking at letters and learning the language in terms of reading and writing skills as well as spoken language. But the thing is, due to the lack of time in the classroom, the teacher has no scope for spoken language. She tries, but as much as I have seen, there is more focus on learning letters than a spoken language. So that becomes a little tough point for the children to absorb the language. And most of the instructions happen in English than in Kannada. That's what I've seen because to help children understand. So that is something that the pattern should be changed. Yeah, we like one sentence she says in Kannada and 10 sentences she uses in English. Which I mean, she also has no choice because she wants
Opposite.
the child to
Yeah.
understand it. There is no other go over here. But then yeah, that's what happens. But I think they should spend exclusively, like say in a month they have four, in a week if they have 4 classes, 2 exclusive classes should be spent on spoken language so that the children start comprehending what is being taught in the class. Okay, so that should become main focus of learning for them. And gradually when you start teaching them, when you start giving them more and more instructions in the same language, it becomes easy for them to understand, and that's when reading can improve. And reading itself should be an activity exclusively. So teachers should bring some simple book. It shouldn't be an elaborated text as such. It should be very simple and small, or maybe she can break them into parts and have a reading session at least once in a week with them so that they get to listen to new words, and probably she can, ask them, did you get to hear any new word today? Did you understand the meaning of this word? And things like that. So, the child starts, listening more and more. That is another thing that we can do. And also, of course, we do talk about a lot of stories and rhymes and songs, Kannadada ಹಾಡುಗಳಾಗಲಿ, in any language that you're teaching them, the songs and story should be part of this. And enacting will help them absorb the body language, expressions, emotions, everything. So that becomes, a kind of a tool to use for us to help children understand the language a little more easier way. Because the minute you say, like, you show them the astonishment in words, or you show them the sadness in words. So the expression itself conveys the message to children to understand the language. So that's another thing that we can include as part of their learning. So the bookish way of learning and making them learn letters and Gunitakshara and do exams on that, yeah, we have no choice. But that becomes like, it's always a handicap. Child will never learn the language or able to comprehend the language. It becomes like, okay, I'm learning this because I need to do this assessment or this exam. So I have to get away with this subject till, until this age. So I am going to do this. That's all is going to happen. So the pattern has to change with various activities. Making them play games is an interesting thing. So you give instructions. So the games also help them understand what has to be followed. Again, the connection to, brain and the, instructions that are given. So that is another thing that we can always do. And when it comes to actual part of academic learning, so there is, like I always find a very, very different aspect of learning in Kannada language. So even I wasn't aware until I looked at Montessori method of teaching Kannada, making children learn Kannada. So when we help them learn letters with help them to learn letters with halan in Montessori method, but whereas in our conventional method we always have the this one
Matras,
talekattu.
the swara.
Talekattu is
Talekattu.
always, the letter comes with talekattu, but the children never understand the difference between the consonants and the
The
gunitakshara
swara
that we
added,
have.
the swara added to
Yeah,
that.
so ವ್ಯಂಜನಕ್ಕೂ ಸ್ವರಕ್ಕೂ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸನೇ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. And I'm not one thing I'm not understanding is even after ages, even now teachers are not using that. They're never even showing them what is a consonant, pure consonant, and what is pure vowel for children. So they're always combining and showing it to them. So that is something that has to be changed with the method for them to understand and get the concept of it with these. We are not giving them the process. They are always in a hurry in giving them the results of what they should learn. I think that's another thing that is making them, difficult to understand the language. So they're always like, ನಾವ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅನ್ನನ ಕಲಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅದನ್ನ ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಬಾಯೊಳಗೂ ಇಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನೀನ್ ಬರೀ ಜೀರ್ಣ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ.
ಅದನ್ನ ಮ್ಯಾಶ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಕಲ್ಸಿ ಅದು ಮೆತ್ತಗಾಗಿ, ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಅಗಿಯೋ ಕೆಲ್ಸನೂ ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ,
ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಅದೇನಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಈಸಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅದರ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಯಾಕೆ ನಾವು ಬರೀತಾ ಇದೀವಿ, ಕೀ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ, ಗಿಳಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಗ ಇ ಇಳ್ ಇ ಅನ್ನೋ ವಿಷಯನೇ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ whereas we are doing that in English, we are doing phonetics for them, which is not a phonetic language. English is not a phonetic language, whereas our Indian language is based on phonetics, and they're purely based on sounds, and they have every letter for every sound. They're more concrete than the language that we are all learning, which is English, but still we are unable to give the essence of the language. So that's another failure for comprehending reading and writing skills. I'm talking in terms of Kannada, I hope it's fine, but if you look at English, yes, we do have a lot of other strategies to look at. This is, I'm talking in terms of our mother tongue. Yeah.
Wonderful. So you gave, okay, let me speak in Kannada. ನೀವು ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ವಿಭಿನ್ನವಾಗಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಮೂಲಕ ತಿಳಿಸಿದ್ರಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕನ್ನಡವನ್ನ ಹೇಗ್ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಥವಾ ಭಾರತೀಯ ಭಾಷೆಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಗ್ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಕ ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಿತಿನ್ 6 years, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಭಾಷೆ ಕಲಿಯೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಕೇಳಿ ಕೇಳಿ ಭಾಷೆ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ರಿಹೆಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಕೂಡ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕೂಡ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ. ಇದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಆಂಗ್ಲ ಭಾಷೆ, ಇವಾಗ ದ ಮೋರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಆನ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ ಅ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್, one book, that's it.
Correct.
And ಮನೇಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಸ್ಕೂಲಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡೋ ಹಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಸಮ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಸ್ ವೇರ್ ದೇ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಎಂಟರ್ಟೈನ್ ರೀಜನಲ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜಸ್ ಇನ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಆರ್ ಇನ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ. ಬಟ್ ಈಗ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಆಳವಾಗಿ ಕೂತಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಹೊರಗೆ ತರಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ಟೇಕ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್ ಟಾಸ್ಕ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಮೋರ್ ಓವರ್ ಅದು ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇಂದ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಬರದೆ ಶಾಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡೋದು ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಈ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಈಗಿನ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಕಲ್ತ್ಕೋಬೇಕು? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದ ಸ್ಟ್ರಗಲ್ ದಟ್ ಐವ್ ಸೀನ್ ಇಸ್ 4ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ 5ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಸಿಂಪಲ್ 4 letter ವರ್ಡ್ ಪ್ರೊನೌನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ದ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಓದಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ, ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಓದಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅವ್ರು ಕಾಂಪ್ರಿಹೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಟು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಸಚ್ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಅಲ್ಟಿಮೇಟ್ಲಿ ದೇ ಸ್ಟ್ರಗಲ್ ವೆನ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಡೂ ಆಲ್ ದಿ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ in English. So what is that the children need to do? And parents go adon stress. More than parents, the pressure is put on the child. ಆ ಮಗುಗೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ಆ ಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ how to help such children? Because ultimately the child is the one who is the sufferer. ಇರ್ಬೋದು,
Correct.
ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ದೇ ಆರ್ ಪೋರಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಆನ್ ಟು ದ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್.
True.
ನೋಬಡಿ ನೋಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ಇಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಥ್ರೂ.
Right. Correct.
ಸೊ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಬಿಗಿನಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಗುಡ್, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಈಸಿ ಫಾರ್ ದೆಮ್ ಟು ಮೂವ್ ಅಹೆಡ್. ಬಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲೋ 3ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿರ್ತಾರೆ, 4ನೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಓದೋ ಹವ್ಯಾಸ, ಓದೋದು ಹಿಂಗೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂಡ್ ನಾರ್ ದ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡಕ್ಕೂ ಆಗದೆ ಇರುವಂತ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ತರದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ವಾಟ್ ವುಡ್
Correct.
ಯು ಲೈಕ್ ಟು ಶೇರ್?
See, the thing is, always early intervention is better anta ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So that's what I feel. And I don't know the circumstances you're talking about. If it is an urban area, I think their comprehensions are better compared to the rural areas, if I'm not wrong.
No,
Is
ಇಲ್ಲಿ
it?
ಅರ್ಬನ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ರು ಕೂಡ, ಇಫ್
Okay.
ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ವಿತ್ ದಿ ಕನ್ವೆನ್ಷನಲ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ದ ರೈಟ್
System.
ವರ್ಡ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಭಾರತೀಯ
Normal education system.
ಚೌಕಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಐ
Hmm.
ಆಮ್ ಎ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ ಅಂಡ್ ಮೈ ಹಸ್ಬೆಂಡ್ ಇಸ್ ಎ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್
Hmm.
ಇನ್ ಎ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಟು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್. ದೋ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ಸಿಟಿ,
Right.
ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ
Hmm.
ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಈವನ್ ಇನ್ ಮೈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್. ಬಟ್
Okay.
when it comes to helping child,
Okay.
there's a struggle. So this aspect, how to tackle?
Yeah, it's a combined effort, to be frank. It's like we cannot say one direction help will help them. So
Hmm.
if the parent is unable to help, I think the main focus goes on to school here, and it is totally dependent on the school where the child
School or
is
any
learning.
trainer or teacher?
Yes,
Yeah,
anything like that. Or
external
sometimes they
support.
may be, yeah, going to tuitions. That is also that they're going for helping sessions outside the school because they're unable to comprehend, as you mentioned. So the main problem here is again, as it comes from the method of learning more than
And
anything else. They are used to
teaching,
the
method
way
of teaching also.
yes, method of
Yeah.
teaching in terms of learning. Both they kind of complement each other. How the child is learned from a particular method of teaching. So it is very difficult to help children suddenly get that point of contact to reading or writing. It's not easy because we say that there is certain age where the children have sensitive periods for learning, whereas we ignore that point of time. Like we don't even sometimes consider that. Sometimes it's ignorance, sometimes we feel it's okay, my child is too small, it's fine, he will learn anyway, he will learn lifelong. So that attitude also is there at times in parents or in adults. What happens, it's okay, ivattilla andre jivna purti ಓದೋದೇ ಅಲ್ವಾ, it's okay, he will learn later. But it's okay, he will learn later on. But what about that particular period where he was supposed to learn something, and if he's missed out, it's not easy to fill that gap, come back and fill it again. I think many of us must have gone through such situations in our lives itself. Like, something we should have done it at one point of time, but we didn't do it. We cannot go back to that phase or that time. We cannot travel back and say that, okay, I will do it now. That is not something which is possible for anyone. So that is something that I would like to add. It's mostly the method of teaching that is actually, deteriorated the child's learning process. So it is us who are responsible for that. So maybe if I can say, if the child is unable to read at the age of 8 or 9, we can still try it out. We can still help children, but in a very different form, as I said. So they need lot of syllabification help here to comprehend the word. So where we split the word and help them to read the word. So that is something which helps children at this point of time. Sounds we can give to children to know the pronunciation of the words. That is again the teacher who teaches children should be very conscious, because if your pronunciations are wrong, again the child who is going to learn is going to have wrong pronunciations. So it is totally the responsibility of the adult on how to help children and encourage them to get to that level of reading and writing. So basically, you can start with level 1 reading skills for children. slowly and help them read and comprehend. We call them something called as interpretive reading activities. So when you have to read something, you should be able to interpret the context which is written by others. Like in simple sentences, like I write a sentence in a slip saying roll the mat. It's a very simple thing that we give it to children. So the minute the child takes and if he is able to read it and understand, he should be able to do that action, roll the mat. He should be able to roll it. Okay, so from that level, you start increasing the difficulties to encourage them to understand the comprehension part. Okay, so you can also narrate comprehensions to them, ask questions to think and answer. Okay, so that's another way we can help them at this point of time. I'm not sure whether it is going to happen at home or in the place where the child is getting help or in the school, but these are the possible things that we can help children do for them. And probably you can have simple sentences once you comprehend the passage for them. So you can ask one or two questions and ask them to write, whatever they remember or they know about that particular comprehension. Another thing is we need to look at grammar, which is essential part for any language for that matter, irrespective of what language you're speaking. Unless we give the inputs of grammar, we will, and grammar cannot be taught the way we all have learned it. Like we know what is noun, what is verb, what is adjective, what is preposition. That's not how we are supposed to give to them. That should be help them to analyze in the structure of the sentence. They should see the placement of words and they should have enough repetition for it. Give them enough sentences, help them to make their own sentences. Look at the placement of words in the sentences, whether it is right. So we call it as disposition of words. So if you rotate around, does it make sense? Does it make sense? So the child should be able to logically understand whether it is making sense when he is, making the sentences. So otherwise, we read sentences and we laugh at the sentences, but we don't understand the difficulty of the child. The child is unable to find the exact place
positioning
for
of
that
the word.
Yeah, it's not possible. And that is with regard to parts of speech. We also have something called as logical analysis in Montessori method of learning, where we help children to understand the structure of the sentence, which revolves around the predicate. So work becomes the main part of the sentence, where all the other words revolve in a sequence. That sequence has to be given to the children to know what is the right way of constructing sentence. So it's a very long process. So someone who is actually helping children learn the language should have complete knowledge and complete hold on this. So I wouldn't say Montessori is the best answer, but then I feel there are people know they teach English. I'm not denying that. We have masters in English and they are aware of it. The problem is they're not able to get down to the levels of children. They're not getting to understand that the children need a different method. It doesn't mean that we always have to have Montessori methods. Now that we have YouTube channels who are speaking on and on about several things in several different ways, they're giving us strategies and ideas. We just have to take them, take those ideas to help children in a better way. That is all we are all, looking at. If that can be done, I think reading and writing shouldn't be an issue unless children have some disability of, reading and writing. The main problem with reading and writing comes with the method of teaching. How we, and we give them answers. Like we complete a lesson and we are always, I have seen how traditional classroom works. Like, the teacher takes a lesson and then she writes the complete notes on the lesson. She uploads it for children. If you do that, the children will never know how to answer a question. So I see children who are in a Montessori classroom because I have been working with them, so I have no idea about it. So I can see the two distinct parts of learning. These children have been doing comprehensions and compositions right from the day one in grade one, and they didn't need any extra help to write their, answers for other lessons which are there in the textbook. They just had to read the text and they had to answer based on what is there. That kind of preparation is never given to children in a traditional classroom. We are always spoon feeding them. Okay, we find the difficult words, we find the fill in the blanks, we find the question and answers, we find the grammar part for them. everything we choose. We never give that opportunity for children to choose. Why should we choose difficult words from the lesson? Why can't the child sit and underline difficult words for himself and learn for himself? We don't introduce dictionary to them. We don't even bother to tell them how to use a dictionary. Then when will they learn? Even the meaning is given by a teacher. The child writes the word and she writes the meaning of the word.
That
So
one
how does
meaning,
the
that's
child?
it. They don't know
Yeah.
the
Four,
other
and that is
meanings.
more important. Yeah. So people are more bothered about four meanings that the child has learned in the entire year, which is going to be reproduced in the exam. That is the main concern is all about, that is where you compare with the systems of education or with the methods of education that you are going through. So the child is actually, kind of molded, or, I'm not getting the exact word, he is being shaped to adapt to that kind of, learning.
Boxed.
So
The child is
yes.
boxed.
So
Hmm.
there is no way the child is going to explore. Like every day is a happening place in the classroom. If you're with the children, you give them one small hint, they go and bring the universe. And which is true. That's what Montessori tells us, that you cannot offer small things to children at this point of time. She says the universe is the only answer to all their questions, which is very true. Like I see them doing things on their own without any help. Okay, so they come up with, dictionaries, they come up with writing sentences, writing stories, they create their own poems. Like there is no end to it. In fact, the classroom timings are not enough for them. They go home. Like we had one small assembly about Science Day recently. Children went on board, like, they were like overboard. Like they are talking about Abdul Kalam, they're talking about Kalpana Chawla, they're like everywhere, like they're coming up with so many information every day. So that is the learning place that they need, and it is not restricted to English or Kannada or Hindi or any language. It can go to any subject, which is not happening in a conventional method. It is still continuing. The very sad part, English teacher comes, does English and goes back, math teacher comes, does math and goes back. There is no integration of subjects also for children to explore. It's always been inside within that periphery. We are not coming out of that boundary at all. If math teacher comes, she'll only see the sums that are there. Maybe she will do one or two more problems to give them practice. But whereas we tell children, once they have understood the hang of doing word problems, you see, you create your own problems, and you should see the variety of problems they create. Isn't it not reading? Isn't it not writing? Why should it be restricted to one area? So it's again the method of, teaching, how you incorporate things into children, help them, look at every bit of it as learning. So if it is
Thank you.
English is happening English class, it gets restricted there. It doesn't go beyond this point. So the whole problem here is we need to be, like as I said, creativity is needed all the time. Teacher cannot be at rest, at peace. Even at the middle of the night, sometimes I think, okay, maybe this we should do to help this particular child.
Thank you, Netra, because you took me back to my days.
Okay.
Being a mother, what all mistakes I did. ನನ್ಗೇನಾಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಐ ಪುಟ್ ಹಿಮ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್. ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ LKG, I admitted him. Before that, I had put him into a play school. So I was not very, because I was not, to be very honest, I was not aware of this Montessori method or anything. So children gradually they pick up writing and all that. So why should I pressurize, or why should I emphasize more on anta? Nanu, 3 years time only, I just left it. And for 3 years,
Short.
10 months onwards, he was put into LKG. And there,
Okay.
it was a small tiny box, He
Okay.
was supposed to write two letters, two digits, numbers. And
Correct. Correct.
automatically, if I count, leaving one row and one column and one row, he had to write 180 times a day, two-digit
Right.
numbers. As it is, because the fine motor skills will not be developed yet. It was such a
Right.
difficult task for him. There was a comment, rub and rewrite kind in
Rough
the
and
red
ready. Right.
pen. So he
Right.
was not motivated. That didn't even motivate him to get into the reading habit also. It was always that negative comments. that, you told about the kind of mindset or the impressions that we put into the child's
Right.
mind at the early. I said, okay, let him learn at his pace. Even I gave up at some point, making him do it. And the school where I put, there was no emphasis more on English. It was a normal school. Like, so it was more of a Kanglish school kind. Of course, I've also learnt in the same kind of Kanglish.
Right. Right.
Though English medium, it was more a Kannada speaking kind. So this is how it went. And the struggle, I can see that struggle went on for a longer period, wherein, that interest towards reading or writing didn't come. And later, when I
Hmm.
put him in a different school, again, getting acquainted with that system and setup, everything had a challenge to him and me and my pressure on him, all these kind of things. Of course, I think most of the parents who are watching will connect with me and they resonate with me more what the
Right.
kind of struggle they are going through. So that's what
True.
now children have started, because as you said, they have to get into the regular habit of reading, that weekly twice or something like that. But what I used to do is every day 10 minutes was an activity what I emphasized on. Everyone should come, one child reads and the other one reads, so everyone at least that 10-minute reading, most of them are listening to the others and they're reading, they're into that habit and they picked up very quickly. Within 3 months, they started with a lower grade material and it went on. So now I'm into a reading program, but what I see the struggle is they don't have that environment at home. So whatever I do it in the duration is what, at least they are motivated, they are happy to learn the language. I felt that is the first thing, that is the base.
Yes, definitely is. Yeah, that establishment of love for learning is very, very important. Unless we create that atmosphere, they don't enjoy it. That is when all the hatred come towards, learning anything for that matter, not just
Yes, yes.
reading or writing. For
Yeah,
anything, whether it is math or any subject for that matter. So they start hating the process itself. They think it's a burden on them. So that shouldn't be the case for children. So they should start loving it. They should start enjoying it, and then comes from different sources. Yeah. Another
beautiful.
thing is like, yeah, look at the background of parents. I'm not sure what kind of background they have. If not, they can provide, like, I think they would be providing everything that the children want nowadays. Parents have that attitude. Like, okay, let me give my child, I didn't get this. Somehow they try to get things
Yeah,
done for children. So probably they can try getting them books more, to encourage them to read. So they can take children, ask them to choose for themselves. The gifting is something that is going on as a trend, currently. So for
yeah,
birthdays and things like that. So that encouragement could be in that way. So maybe we can get old books from these old newspaper sellers that people. I mean, that's how we all used to get old
yeah,
magazines. Those days. We never
yeah,
had fresh books like the way today all children are having it in their hands. Like Chandamama's 6 months ago's book, we used to get it from the old mart person.
yeah,
So those kind of things can be collected and kept for them. Newspaper cuttings can be encouraged for children. So you can even help children to, like, as you were telling that, you ask them to read 10 minutes every day. So you can also help them have a circle time in the morning. I mean, whenever you have the session with them. So each day, child can pick up something for himself to read about anything for that matter. Like, it's not necessarily one topic that you are choosing.
so
So the
nowadays
small
what has happened is, if they have to develop the language of English, it is only English content, English stories.
English,
It is no
nothing
way
like that.
connected to science or no, that is how
Yes,
the,
true.
I mean, the
That's what
practice
I'm
is.
saying. Once,
Mm.
yeah, the assemblies that we conduct in the school should also be different. It's again, it's all interconnected. That's what I've been trying to tell
Yeah,
you
you
from the
told
beginning.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's like it can be like we had the variety of assemblies. We had on Doctor's Day, we had on tigers, we had on elephants. So we took the topics which were unique and different for them. So there's no monotony there, like coming and presenting. Like we usually used to have oath, that national oath that we all have, like my brothers and sisters and things like that,
yeah,
right? So instead, we took the science oath this time. So, like, if you are a person who's going to be a scientist, what kind of oath you're going to take? So you need to break that monotony and break that, the normal way of looking at things. That gives them, a different experience for learning. So they will see beyond what they are learning. So that is something that we have to see. And another thing, word families for children who are actually having problem with learning to understand the spellings and the pronunciations, you can start with word families for them. Word study is an amazing thing again to help children. And building sentences is something that they can always do. So creative writing is what we call them. So they can always write whatever they want about anything, about their hair, their lips, their nose, any part of their body, anything around them. Like, you should see the creativity that they pour in when they are writing these sentences. They have
Definitely.
such funny sentences to write,
Yeah,
such,
yeah.
serious messages to give us, like, So we had variety of these things that is being done in the classroom. Like, there's no restriction for them. That's what I say. When you have a textbook, I'm always scared actually. Once in a while, I feel like I'll go check what is in the textbook as well, because I'm worried about the parents most of the time, because they're comparing us with the CBSE. Are we in par with CBSE? Are we doing things like the way? But then when I look back, when I see our children, they're more confident. They're more, cheerful. They're more happier. They're more active. They're all the time thinking. They're connecting. Like, one small thing that we had is about one of the words that we introduced to them through a word study of suffix and antonyms, and like they were able to connect it everywhere, like, so it can go with this word also, this word, so that connection is so unique for them. So it was not with one word. It is not like, they look at it one angle. Like, if we do that, then there is no scope for them to explore. So that kind of, exploration comes when you have freedom, when you have that openness to accept things from them. So that's another thing that we need to keep in mind for them. So you can look into those aspects also for them to encourage read and write. And they also love a lot of funny readings. This age group is kind of, little, they don't like serious readings all the time. So
Yeah.
they would like to do a little bit of comic reading. I'm not sure again what is the background of these children. Sometimes, giving them background of certain things will create interest in them. And of course, we should know the children's interest as well. Sometimes they may not be literally interested in one thing. So you need to catch hold of that interest and take them through that. Like, one of the children in our class is like, he knows geography, like,
Yeah.
more than us. Like,
Crazy.
we
Yeah.
don't even know the names of the flags and countries. Like, he will be sitting in one corner and he will say, "Oh, that is that flag." I'm like, "Okay, fine." I'm like, I'll have to go back and cross check whether he is right or not. But then he is absolutely right. So for that child, teacher in our class will always see how to make him right through
Yeah.
geography.
Yeah.
So things like that we will have to adapt, which is not possible in a traditional classroom, because we can't blame the teachers either. They are
Because the
confined
system they have to, they are confined to that. Yeah.
to. So I think
You,
because you are running the program for children, here you can incorporate such things. You can
yeah.
catch hold of what is their, main interest, and you can take from there and pour in, things to them to understand and do their process of reading and writing. So that is something. Some
Yeah.
of them will be very expressive through their drawings. That is another observation we have had this year since we started elementary in Harvest for the first time. We could see varied, learning process in different children. And some of the children were like, least bothered about learning in the initial stages. They were not worried about what we were doing. Like, we would tell them etymology, they look at us as though we are talking about stars and the moon in the sky. Like, but end of the year, they come back and so, what is the etymology for this word? To that extent, they have started, and getting the point of understanding. So, and some of them didn't like to write, but they were doing drawings related to what we taught them. So, like, if we tell them the story of, the function of leaf, they would come back with a drawing. If we narrate a story on some animal or some plant, they would come back with a drawing. So from there, we should make them to, we would say, okay, fine, you have done this drawing. Why don't you write at least one sentence to see what you have drawn? So it's very difficult to some children to encourage them writing. It is like they wouldn't have got that idea of writing is very
Yeah,
important. Yeah,
yeah.
ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅದು ಅವ್ರ
ಜಸ್ಟ್
ನಮಗನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ
ಬಂದಿರಲ್ಲ,
ಬರೆಯೋದು
ಕಾಂಪ್ರಿಹೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿರಲ್ಲ, ಅಥವಾ ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್
ಇಲ್ಲ,
ಮಾಡೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿಲ್ಲ.
ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೇನು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬರೆಯೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದೇ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಸೊ ಕಂಫರ್ಟಬಲ್. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಆ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ ಆಫ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಷನ್ ಈಸ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಆರ್ಟ್. ಸೊ
Yeah,
ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಆರ್ಟ್ ಇರೋವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ನೀವು ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬರೀರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದೇ ಲೂಸ್ ದಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್. ಬಟ್ ನಾವು ಟುಡೇ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಅ ಇಯರ್ we see her sitting and writing a paragraph. Today we don't have to tell her because we let her do in the initial stages to do what she wanted, and slowly we took her step by step, like the thanks to the class teachers who were working with her. It's not me anyways, but then they have seen the progress so tremendously with the child, and it's like so beautiful to watch both teachers and children enjoying this process. So sometimes it is like, something is bothering them where they don't want to write. Sometimes, yes, they don't have the idea of construction, which takes away their, and also the corrections. Another worst part that we
yeah,
all have is correcting. Okay. And also, but then at the same time, corrections are important. But correcting in a right way is also important. Not like, whatever the way we all have gone through, like, putting cross and making the mark on there, you
circles.
know, circling, all those things are not the right way. So you sit with the child. Actually, children want to write correctly. They don't want to write anything wrong. To be frank,
Yes,
what I've seen, right from the time they're conscious of the spellings, once they understand these orthographic complications, they know that there is a different spelling in different parts in English. They come to you and they ask us, ಇದಕ್ಕೇನ್ spelling ಬರಿಬೇಕು? What is this right? They want to know whether they've done right or wrong. That
yeah,
is there. It's not like children want to write wrong. But sometimes we tell them, yes, this is the spelling, you write it. Sometimes we say, think from your point of view. Sometimes we give them a clue. Like if we, okay, say if there is a word which is connecting with the spelling, we give them a clue. Sometimes we tell them, why don't you go and ask your friends and see if that can help you. So we try different varieties for them so that the children are not monotonously absorbing the spelling. Sometimes we say, I think you work with this particular material and there is this spelling in that card. Why don't you go and check? So it
yeah,
is, the child has to remember which card, which material. So he will have to go back and check over there. So there are varieties in which we do. We play a lot of games for, again, the spellings and reading and comprehension. So one child reads and the other child has to answer. So other child will give them the clue, this child will have to answer. Sometimes they sit as a group and play the game. So which is also like group learning, group correction. And you should see like one beautiful observation I had recently when we were sitting in the class. They were all writing about some animal after the story was done. So this particular child is excellent in spelling in the class. So they all sat around her. If they don't know the spelling, oh, can you tell me the spelling for this? So they are
yeah.
like so confident. If they sit
Ask.
next to her,
Peer
yeah.
learning is amazing.
Yeah, so we don't have to be bothered about teaching them all the time, and that's what we tell. I know that learning is very spontaneous when children know how to learn, and we don't have to worry about it. The problem is we don't have trust. We don't give the time. We don't give them enough, freedom to learn certain things. So if all these three combine together, they're wonderful learners. Like they learn a lot more than what we actually expect. We don't have to have that kind of boundary for learning. They go beyond and they learn a lot of work for themselves. So these are some of the things that we have tried in the classes for children, and they work amazingly well. Yes, as you mentioned, reading every day and giving them to get something to read. They can get it from anywhere. I'm sure everybody has newspapers at home. They can get any newspaper bit
Please.
and read it. Yeah, piece in the class. And for grammar, probably you can take sentences from any of the books that are there, not just from the textbook. Ask them to underline nouns, which we do it generally, underline verbs. Pick out the words and look at the dictionary. Making dictionary itself is another thing that they'll all do. So for themselves, they choose every day one new word and put it in their dictionary. They make their own dictionary. So dictionary of verbs, dictionary of nouns. You can ask, like you can create their own things for themselves. So then that interest for learning would be more. So grade 4 and 5, I think they're more into a lot of, they're one step into the second stage of development than in the first stage of development. It's
Very
another
true.
thing we should keep in mind. Like, so lower elementary is little, not, it's not going to be very difficult because they're still in that sensorial period of learning. They're somewhere like that's what I see them like, they're easy to, handle a little bit better than this, upper elementary. Upper elementary children have maturity. They also have somewhere in their mind that they may feel at times withdrawn because they feel that they're grown up. Why are we doing this? Kiddish things are also there. So you need to see their needs and change the method a little bit for them. You cannot go with same, strategies with what we are doing with lower elementary. They may need a little advanced thing. Maybe you can have little better version of, reading and, skits and dramas for them. So that will help them. I don't know if they still love to do these kind of damsharas and all that. These children love doing it. So if
Yeah, yeah.
that age group, if they like, then you
See,
can.
one more thing is, if they don't have exposure for these kind of activities, any age they love. Because I have
Okay.
taught ninth, 10th, and 11th, 8th, 9th, and 10th also, high school, when I was in NPS, I was teaching Sanskrit. So there I could see these children, because all PPTs or whatever, everything only in the science class they see that, or in some of the math classes they see, not in any of the language classes. So when I used to create, the Sandhi or Samasa in Sanskrit with the PPT,
Mm-hmm.
that word popping, coming, joining together and,
Mm-hmm.
forming a new word, all this, that
Right.
was an excitement for them. It is not that these children are not aware of any PPTs or
Uh,
anything, but they loved because usual routine structure
right.
is not there
Breaking.
and it is
Right.
something totally different and they started creating and they started doing it. And I
Yeah,
would
that is
also like
their
to add,
level of work. Yes.
uh,
Right. Right.
yeah, you mentioned about giving the chance for children to illustrate because some children are very good at illustrations. In fact, I tried, these are the three books what children in my community have published.
Wow.
So all the
Wonderful.
children together, yeah, this is another book. And this is
Okay.
Mama Ganesha. So because
I
based on
saw this.
their
Right.
based on
Right.
their background, they
Uh-huh.
wonderful work. As you said, children do excellent drawings and everything. If you can see this, these are the creation of children.
Beautiful. Amazing. Yes.
So in the first two books, I have added some pictures, and later
Okay.
they started. They said they want to have these images. They want to create all these drawings
Right.
and
Right.
everything. So
Okay.
that's something which is amazing. And they have edited, one child has edited the entire story. So now any error that is there, they say, I'll ask Mohananna so
Okay.
that I can get the editing done,
Correction.
corrections
Okay.
done. So,
Hmm.
as you said rightly, it is not that as adults or teachers or mentors, we need to correct every aspect of it because they feel that they can rely on somebody and take the support of the elder children or the same age group and do it. And this writing program also, like, I have designed in such a way that they do regular writing every day so that it helps. So you pointed out beautifully because they have that. The only thing is they need a right platform or a support that is required, and the corrections also very carefully to be done in a right manner. So really amazing.
Right.
So with this, like, what are all the kind of, constraints that are there in today's world related to reading and writing?
Yeah. First thing, our gadgets, thanks to our technology.
Mm,
I think no words to, explain about the problems that we are facing because of these gadgets. Next, I think not being in joint families. That's another major issue I think we are all facing. We are all in nuclear families, no connection to relatives, friends, and grandparents. Like, the source of stories were my grandparents for me, like,
Yes, definitely.
especially
You and I
my
agree with
son.
that.
Yeah, if I
Mm.
have started loving, mythological stories so much, it is all because of my grandma, who would narrate every day one story to me. Of course, there were morals like saying, how a woman should be, and what kind of woman she should. That those were the things that they taught us, which is unique. I mean, definitely, yeah, they were different from a different level. But then, yeah, the way the ideas that she poured into my life, and how she, helped me to understand life in connection to stories, how to lead life, and things like that were amazing, which I don't see in current day children. They have no connection to grandparents, and there is no way that they are able to get those kind of essences so naturally. Even though we try to have this class, that class, like Saturday, Sundays are bombarded with continuous classes, but that is not what is needed for children. They need most connected time with the family and family members. That is something I'm really, really missed out on this generation. Like, they're not there. They're like it. There is a family time, but I don't know what kind of family time
I know.
is that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
am
is
not
all of
able to
them with their
actually.
mobiles or with
Uh,
their screens. We are all on in
exactly.
one platform, kind, but
Yes,
no
and
one is connected. Yeah.
no one is connected. Like, in one day, I was traveling in the bus, and one child was holding mother's mobile and crying. I said, "No, this is my mobile," and I took the mobile from mother just to make her calm. But the thing is, after I took the mobile from mother, I see all the people around the child are on mobile. They're all looking at it, and this child who was holding the mobile is like, I felt so sad. It's like, we are not right. We are telling, but we are not doing anything in terms of that. Mobile is not meant to be in your hands all the time when it is not needed. Like, we are on messages all the time. We are looking at mobile for each and everything. Like, we are totally dependent on the mobile for every single thing that we are having in our life today. For everything, okay, you do it online. You do it online. It's become like we are losing connection with the world and the people. See, we talk about so much of reading and writing, but where are the experiences coming from? Only when you talk to people, you get the experience. How would you get an experience from this gadget which doesn't communicate anything? It needs again reading and writing skills to comprehend what is in that mobile. That is taken away. Every child can handle Swiggy, every child can handle Amazon, everything is online, nothing is offline in today's world. So that, kind of connection that is needed for the world is away from, today's children, which is very sad. But then I think we should try and bring it. We used to have Lal Bagh visits, Kabul Park visits, which was so innocent, and it used to be like, always to be with nature was something which we all enjoyed. Today it is like, children can go to abroad anytime they think of, their outings of any time is going to be like either Singapore, Malaysia, this, that, it's
No,
not
and moreover,
ordinary.
malls.
Yeah, all
Internal
the
is
malls
like,
I went.
only malls and
Yeah. But there is so much which we have to show in our own places. We have so much of connectivity here, which is needed for children. There are so many things which children should see. Of course, going out is also an experience. They learn a lot of things. I think apart from that, connecting to our roots is also very, very important. I see now sometimes parents taking their children to their own, native places once in 4 years or 5 years, which
that,
is,
and it is never
yeah,
even taken. Never even
yeah.
taken. Many cases.
So
No,
I
they
think
don't
that
even
should
know their native.
exactly. And when you go back, there is so much to learn there. It's not, I know for us, the lifestyle has become another issue. We all have been living in such, sophisticated world where we don't think beyond that thing. But even today, if I go back to my hometown, I feel so, blissful, and it's like it's as if I'm in the heaven. It's like that. Going
Very
and touching some stone or some tree is more joyful than, going to mall. I can never enjoy. I can never be there in a mall for more than 15 minutes. It's not possible to spend, like, no, I know people spend a day in malls. That
yeah.
is impossible for us. I think we should be more nature friendly, connect, bridge things with nature more. And I think today we are facing water crisis in Bangalore. We should understand why. Is any gadget able to solve this water crisis for us? It's not possible. It's humans. We have done the mistakes and we should rectify it. So it's in our hands. Even for children, anything that we are offering, it should connect to them. It should prepare them for the future. It shouldn't be today and now. It has to be always connecting, bridging. They are the bridges actually, like, between us and the future. They are going to be the carriers of culture. They are going to be the carriers of entire, thing that we all have today with us. So that should be given to them. So that connection happens only when we have experiences in hand. And we are
Wonderful.
always like, trying to make things easier for children, and we protect them. Yes, protection is needed, safeguarding is needed, listening to them is definitely needed, understanding them, providing quality time, everything is needed. Apart from that, we also should see where to stop, where to limit things for children. They should go through hurdles, they should know the problems, they should go through pain, they should have emotional issues with them, because that is how they become stronger and confident in their life. If everything is so beautiful and polished and given to them, and tomorrow they have a problem with everything around the world, they can't face the world, and we are putting
On
them
the
into such.
contrary, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
On the
yeah,
contrary,
see,
yeah. On the contrary,
see,
what I would like to share is parents' focus is only on academics. Parents' focus is on only that rather than building their skills which help them for
yeah,
their life. It is more about
true,
the marks and the scores, the what they get, rather
true.
than,
That
whether
will
my child is
definitely
able to,
happen.
yeah,
That will definitely happen. See, I am telling you, children who are in elementary this year, they know how many marks they're getting. None of us have asked for, frankly speaking. They know how many corrections they have got in their paper, how many errors they have made, how not to make those errors. Nobody told them. Why? Why should we tell? They are conscious. Only thing, we are not able to support their mindset. That's all.
yeah, wonderful. Really, it is so insightful. And you know what the message that we need to, as parents, as teachers, the focus should be more on skill development and empowering them. And there
Right.
will be struggle in while learning the skills, no
They
doubt.
should go through. They
Instead of
should
make,
struggle.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, instead of making it simpler and easier, equip them, give them the right platform and the support that is required. If you are not able to take the expert or the person who can help the child in a right manner, take the support, but give that positive. In the beginning, you said the mindset, the approach towards it, and the positive mindset and the positive impact makes a big difference for children, is what I feel.
Right.
And you have really touched upon most of the areas, and it was really amazing to have you on this platform, and it was really insightful. I think parents, what is that you picked, ಇದು ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಕೆಲವು ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಮಗೆ ಆ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಡ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ಪಿಕ್ಡ್? Just pick those points and share it in the comments so that, we will also feel, okay, this was a useful conversation what we had. Thank you so much, Netra, for this wonderful,
Thank you, Meena.
insightful
Thank you for giving this
session. Thank you
wonderful
so much.
opportunity.